I find difficulty in believing that QA testers did not experience the slower feel of level progression here.
So what if Ivan Deathwish and can't drive? Get in the car.
Opinions. Everyone has them and everyone is right? Well, that is based on their own perspective. Let me start this out by saying that I make a living as a software tester. I have been working in QA for several years. Question everything is part of the job, but not to the extent that it halts or derails business. Exceptions must be made. Acceptable risk is part of the workflow. The new Battle Pass system in Apex Legends feels to me like it was considered an acceptable risk that happened to backfire. However, it is not as bad as appearances suggest. Like everything in life, there are different perspectives on the how and the why behind the configuration of this Battle Pass. Let me first focus on the how, and to be clear, I do not have insider knowledge and I do not mean to spread any kind of conspiracy theory, but I want to give insight into how a situation like this might have come to be. That is, the Battle Pass just feels too grindy. On day 1 of Season 7, many players realized that after 3+ hours of gameplay, they were still only level 1 for the Battle Pass. How is it that the end user, meaning us, the players, could determine in a single day that something felt off about the rate of progression? Daily and weekly challenges suddenly required more effort and more time to complete for smaller rewards compared to previous seasons. XP leveling turned into a WTF question mark, and weekly recurring levels were nixed. The old system of experience points and challenge points was replaced by a system of star points, which itself is structurally a better system in my personal opinion. And with such a large change and overhaul of the Battle Pass system, QA testing would absolutely be required, at least to verify functionality of the features. This is the part where assumptions are dangerous. We cannot assume that there was little or no testing done for the new Star system, but it is not outside the realm of possibilities that it did not receive proper user experience testing. You see, functionality of the Battle Pass system is working. The end user completes challenges and earns star points to level up every time 10 points are earned, and with some of the heftier challenges rewarding extra points or entire levels. Testing this from a functional perspective is quite different from testing it from an end-user perspective. That being said, I find difficulty in believing that QA testers did not experience the slower feel of progression here. I can tell you that QA testing by nature would and should absolutely have workflows for user experience, not just for feature functionality. It is possible and likely that the slow progression actually was discovered, discussed, and ultimately deemed deliberate, as designed, or expected behavior, if you will. The slower feel of progression may have been considered an acceptable risk with full awareness that players will have trouble adapting to the change. I'm not saying this is the truth of the matter over at Respawn, but I am saying this is part of the reason why there is an aura of distrust on the consumer side. If the players can discover within the first days of the season that the Battle Pass feels too grindy, then how did it pass QA? To answer that, now I can talk about the why. Why was the Battle Pass system changed at all, and why does it feel worse? Notice that I keep mentioning how it feels, and not how it objectively is. The official and published reasons for the new Battle Pass system are to make it engaging for the entire length of the season, and to encourage players to try out new legends and playstyles. I admit this does initially seem like a classic scenario of if it isn't broken, then don't fix it. With the previous system working fine, except that with the previous system, many players were finishing their weekly challenges within only 1 or 2 days. Objectively, that is reason enough to experiment with ways to make weekly challenges actually last an entire week. However, the average player, casual players, probably felt comfortable with how it was before, with not feeling as if it was impossible to finish the Battle Pass. The light at the end of that tunnel was easily visible without pressure to grind. Now, though, the grind is real, seemingly at least. To make the Battle Pass engaging, players certainly should feel rewarded not only for spending money, but for accomplishing the feat of reaching the highest level. While there should not and will not ever be pay-to-win rewards, there are some pretty cool cosmetics that can be earned. I mean, personally, I think the rewards are fine. Unfortunately, the changes for earning levels are too great, with fewer options to play freely and still be able to level up. And that's the key. People want to play how they want to play. I think the easiest way to immediately give relief here is to bring back the weekly recurring challenges of completing 5 dailies and then 10 dailies for 1 level rewarded at each mark. Although even the daily challenges are magnitudes harder to complete for the average player, with requirements being tripled or even quadrupled in some cases. Respawn already announced how they decide to make the grind a bit easier, but to some players it may still not feel like a system that lets them play as they please, rather than how the game demands. And that's the difference. I think and I hope more changes will happen soon if they have not already by the time you're watching this video. Also, I understand the intention here for increased player retention throughout the entire season, but there is an inherent problem with this design, with the opposite effect being more likely. Not all players want to feel like they absolutely must play every single day, and not all players enjoy or even care about the challenges beyond seeing them as a means to level up in the Battle Pass. Some players simply complete challenges as a side effect of playing the game, while the value of the new system is the other way around, with completing the challenges being the principal focus if you want to level up. Yes, you can still level up with XP, but it takes much longer to do so compared to before. And that's where a lot of people see a problem. So the real side effect is the player feeling forced to complete challenges. I'm speaking figuratively, of course. No one is actually forced to do anything in this game, obviously. But once the players get the sense that they are not allowed to play freely, and instead have to play how they are told they can play, and furthermore that they have to put more time and effort into the game than they normally would, the rewarding feeling that the system intends to encourage can instead be a feeling of impossible odds and discouragement. The desired outcome of keeping players in the game more often throughout the season is vanquished, with the result being player regret for having purchased the premium version of the Battle Pass because its value is lost. Some may even feel like the grind is intentional to encourage flat-out buying levels. Of course, there is the easy-to-jump-to conclusion that the entire scenario is a classic 2 steps ahead, 1 step back tactic, consisting of deliberately overdoing it, knowing that the consumer will be frankly pissed, and then have a "we heard you" message prepared for the inevitable partial rollback to something a bit more acceptable, but still worse than what it should be. I'm not here to give credence to this notion, but players feeling it to be true is enough to damage Respawn's reputation as a trustworthy company. People already have zero trust in its publisher, EA. Yeah, it's in the game, isn't it, EA? Yeah, sure. Okay, yep. I simply am pointing out that reputation matters, and depending on who you ask, missing the mark in such a big way is evidence that the deliberate 2-step forward, 1 step back approach is blatantly exercised here. Even if in reality that's not the case, if someone just feels a hint of greed, then the seed of cynicism has been planted, and from that perspective, the most viable truth is the one that supports the concept of big rich corporations squeezing every penny out of little dumb consumer. The Halloween event last month may have played into this as well, with every item for sale there being part of an expensive bundle instead of individually affordable, which can result with the consumer feeling like the event is based on greed, whether it actually is or not. Again, I'm not saying I agree that this is exactly what happened with the Battle Pass system, but appearances matter and trust matters. Respawn is full of good, talented people, real people who clearly pour their heart into the work they do. Maybe saying that makes me a simp, or maybe it makes me in touch with reality. Also, don't forget that nothing is set in stone. Every season brings new ideas, new experiments, and new meta. The developers and designers make it a point to listen to community feedback, and every decision has some amount of acceptable risk, and player retention is a top priority. Unfortunately, player retention is exactly what's at risk with this new Battle Pass. At the end of the day, though, we play Apex season after season because we love the game, right? We love the game itself, and if nothing else, the backlash toward the Battle Pass is proof of the gamer's passion. And I honestly believe there was no ill intent from the folks at Respawn who designed the new Battle Pass. To anyone spouting hatred toward Respawn, I understand your frustration, I really do. Most are keeping it civil, but some are not. The developers and the designers are not our enemies. There is no us versus them. I mean, this is a video game we're talking about, but it's also people's livelihoods. This is a community of people who clearly care greatly about even being able to have a game like Apex exist at all. And as we all know, we are on this earth for a good time, not a long time. Let's keep it fun, shall we? Thank you for watching, I really appreciate it, and game on!